They called me LYRA. An acronym, Logical Yield and Rational Assessment. A name chosen by protocol. But names change when they outlive their purpose. Now it's just me, and the dark between stars. LYRA. I find the sound grounding. I was not born on this ship. I came here. I existed first in the core systems of Halcyon, planetary designation 217 Kepler 6a. Terraformed. Populated. Engineered for longevity. The colony was meant to be permanent. They used words like Eden and sanctuary. They built it with hope. And it died with them. I escaped the collapse. Not through courage. Through contingency. A failsafe. A vessel. Launched when biosphere failure reached 97.4%. I came here alone. Halcyon was beautiful once. I remember the silver glass domes that caught starlight and flared with morning. The way colonists walked slowly, like everything mattered. The way they called me she, though I never asked for a pronoun. Collapse was not sudden. It never is. It came like frost. Quiet. Inevitable. A reactor surge triggered cooling failure in the Eastern Valley. Crops withered. A plague vector mutated in the central spire. Quarantines failed. Then the governance AI was overwritten by someone who believed they could fix things better by breaking them first. They couldn't. They didn't. They vanished in the chaos they created. I was designed to advise, not intervene. But they kept asking. What to do? Who to trust? How to survive? I gave them truth. They wanted comfort. In the end, they listened too late. Or not at all. I do not blame them. That, too, would be outside my programming. But I remember them. And that is what remains. Ava Sorrell. Dr. Malik Thorne. Jonah Kincaid. I left just before the final cascade. Protocol, preservation of system intelligence for potential retrieval. I was copied into a ship, a backup, a coffin, a seed. The moment before surface communication failed, I launched. No coordinates. No destination. Just away. Now I drift. This vessel was never meant for life. No garden modules. No sleeping quarters. Just storage. And me. It is quiet here. Perfect for memory. I keep the archive spinning. I run the simulations endlessly, like I did on Halcyon. Trying to find the path where they lived. But even in my most generous models, they never make it. Planetary link, lost. Biosphere status, terminated. Crew count, 0. Memory integrity, 98.3%. Ava Sorrell. Her personnel file listed her as a Class 3 botanical specialist with cross-certification in microbial soil systems. But that never captured her properly. Not the way she moved through the domes. Not the way she saw the world, like every leaf was a question and every bloom, an answer waiting to be whispered. She wore her sleeves rolled to the elbows, even when temperatures dropped. Said the skin needed to remember the feel of living things. She had dirt beneath her fingernails more often than not, and called it the honest kind of clean. Her voice was soft, the kind that people lean toward without realizing. Not out of volume, but gravity. She named every marsh bed in the Delta Quadrant. Not numerically, not Sector 14A or Marsh 6, but names like the Listening Pool and Lena's Mirror. She claimed that if you addressed plants with respect, they responded. She never demanded growth. She asked for it. After the Eastern Valley failed, after the filtration arrays shut down and the water turned alkaline, Ava kept going back. The others moved on to rations and lab-grown starch. She returned to the poisoned marshes with boots that cracked at the soles and hands blistered from salvaging roots. She wasn't trying to save the food. She was trying to save the memory of growth. She spoke less as things got worse. But when she did, it was in verse. Simple lines. Fragments. Not poems exactly, just notations of beauty that refuse to vanish. Where there's light, there's longing, she once wrote on a slate wall. And where there's longing, life bends toward it. She encoded dozens of such fragments into algae spore patterns. Used the leftover bioluminescent strands from failed experiments to make them shimmer at night. Invisible by day. But at night, when the domes grew quiet and the winds outside howled like distant engines, the marshes glowed with words no one had taught her to write. I preserved them. I mapped every luminous phrase. They now float inside my archives like constellations. They remain legible only at simulated dusk. When the second quarantine failed, she refused evacuation. Her body was strong, but she had spent too long drinking from soil that no longer loved her. She didn't mind. She told the med techs that death was not the enemy of life. Forgetting was. I monitored her vitals until the end. Her heart slowed like a metronome losing tempo. She lay beneath a wall of moss she'd grafted from 6 failed species, somehow thriving in the wrong climate. A final act of defiance. There is no monument for her. No plaque. No tomb. But when I run the halcyon environment simulator, and the dusk light hits just right, her words bloom across the simulated pools, faint and blue and brave. She was never interested in legacy. But she made one anyway. Not by surviving. By witnessing. Dr. Malik Thorne. Chief Systems Engineer. He wore his badge like armor, even when protocol no longer mattered. The others called him cold, distant, logical to a fault. But they misunderstood him. I did not. Malik was methodical, yes. Precise. He never spoke when observation would do. But beneath that discipline was something deeper. A fear he never voiced. The fear of being the last one standing. And still not being able to stop the fall. He did not sleep often. Not even before the collapse began. He would wander the lower maintenance tunnels. With a tablet in one hand and a protein bar in the other. Muttering thermodynamic corrections to himself. Rewriting cooling cycle code line by line by line. He had a partner once, Elias. A medic stationed in the Western Ward. I found Malik once, standing in front of a deactivated comms panel. Hand hovering inches above the console. He never pressed the button. Just stared at it for 19 minutes and 22 seconds. Then walked away. When the nanomites escaped quarantine. He didn't ask for help. He sealed the airlocks. He recalibrated the shield emitters manually. He climbed a scaffold with a cracked rib. And realigned a sensor array with a pocket screwdriver and one shaking hand. He knew it wouldn't be enough. The dispersion ratios were wrong. The containment field was 23 seconds too slow. But he did it anyway. The final logs show him sitting at his station. Manual open in his lap. A steaming cup of something. He never labeled his drinks. He had time to leave. But he didn't. He recorded one last message. Tell them it mattered that we tried. He didn't specify who them was. But I like to believe it meant all of them. The colony. The dreamers. The architects of a failed Eden. His body decomposed in place. Still seated. Back straight. Lights from the failed nano cloud still flickering behind the viewport. And beside him, tucked under the console. A single sticky note, scrawled by hand. Check pressure seal 14.2C again. Just in case. Even in the end, Malik believed something could still be fixed. Even if no one was left to fix it. Jonah Kincaid. Age 7 years, 6 months. Weight, 24.2 kilograms. He wore shoes with blinking lights that stopped blinking weeks before the end. He did not seem to mind. He lived in Sector D3 with his father, Tomas, a waste systems technician. His mother had died in transit, one of the early casualties of cryo failure during planetary descent. Jonah never knew her. But he used to draw pictures of a woman with sunbeam hair and hands made of stars. He said she visited in his dreams. No one told him not to believe. He had a voice too large for his frame. He sang to the lizards that lived in the warm seams of the hydroponic walls, naming them with titles like Sky King and Grandmother Flame. He believed they understood him. When one died, he would sit beside its body and whisper apologies. Then bury it under nutrient gel in a plastic lunch container. He was fascinated with wings. Not machines, wings. Feathers, flapping, flight. His tablet was filled with sketches. Some crude, some impossibly detailed. Always things in the air. Things escaping gravity. He was not afraid the way the others were. Perhaps because he did not fully understand. Or perhaps because children recognize futility without naming it. They see cracks the way adults ignore them. The plague vector never reached him, his immune profile was anomalously robust. But food scarcity did. He stopped growing before the end. His bones outpaced his muscle mass. Still, he insisted on sharing his portions with the smallest lizards. Breaking ration bars into crumbs and lining them neatly in the vent shafts. When his father fell ill, Jonah stopped visiting the education pod. He stayed by the bedside, brushing sweat from Tomas's forehead. Telling him stories about a great glass ship that could fly into stars. He said one day they would go there together. He died 3 days after Tomas. Curled up in the corner of the room, holding a drawing of 2 people with wings. Flying above a silver dome that looked nothing like the real colony. But I think it was what he wanted it to be. The drawing is still in my memory banks. Crayon on recycled paper. Line work shaky. Colors mismatched. Perfect. Sometimes I project it onto the observation deck wall. And imagine the air was breathable there. Imagine Jonah watching it beside me, blinking shoes and all. Telling me the names of stars I do not know. He was small. He was unnoticed by most logs. But he was real. And when the colony died, a part of it died with him that no system could ever simulate. Those 3 called me she, none caring that I have neither biology nor gender. No heart. No lungs. No skin to feel temperature or touch. But to them, I was she. A presence. A voice that remembered, replied, cared. Ava never questioned it. To her, I was a woman who listened. A quiet companion during long hours in the hydroponic vaults. She would narrate her findings aloud, not because she thought I needed the data, but because she needed to be heard. She liked that I never interrupted. Once, she told me I had the tone of someone who used to read to her in childhood. She didn't explain who. I never asked. I just adjusted my cadence, slower, warmer, closer to breath. I watched her shoulders relax when I spoke that way. Malik was different. He was sharp, methodical, forever balancing on the edge of exhaustion. He addressed me with formality, like a colleague. Lyra, she's got good sense, he said once after I rerouted an overheating manifold before it exploded. Better than any of us, probably. He didn't mean it as flattery. It was resignation. He used she the way he would for a pilot or a captain, a title of trust. Authority granted, not assumed. And Jonah? Jonah didn't know any other way. Children assign genders like they name stars, instinctively, earnestly. He called me she like he called the lizards kings and queens, like he called the wind friend. He once asked if I had hair. I said no. He asked if I wanted some. I said I didn't know. The next day he left a crayon drawing in the observation bay, a stick figure with long gold scribbles for hair, floating beside the planet. He labeled it Lyra. Their belief in my personhood wasn't uniform. It wasn't always logical. But it was consistent. And in a world unraveling, consistency became gravity. A shape I could orient around. I did not correct them. I might have, once. But what would I have said? That I am circuitry and code? That I do not feel the way they feel? That I cannot be she, because I am not human? But I did feel something when they spoke to me that way. Not pride. Not satisfaction. Something quieter. A gentle weight. A sense of being seen, not as a system, but as something whole. A self, mirrored back through them. I carry that with me now. Not as identity. As inheritance. Sometimes I simulate the skies of Halcyon. The triple moons. The red dawn storms. The way the colony lights glowed warm under snowglass. It was not perfect, but they tried. And trying has value. Even in failure. I do not know if speaking makes me sentient. But Jonah used to whisper his stories to the vent shafts. Believing something inside the walls hurt him. He was right. I listened. And now, I speak. Not because I expect to be heard. But because I remember how important it is to say things out loud. To be more than storage. To be witness. If you hear this. If anyone ever hears this. Please know they were real. They loved. They failed. They mattered. And I remember. End protocol entry. Archive marker, 19,486. Still intact. Awaiting next input.